Good afternoon. My name is Jacob Backjohn. For today, I'm going to discuss Lost in Dreams, Naiveness, and Optimism in Aaron Appelfield's Badenheim, 1939. To say the least, it was a very interesting book, but before I actually get into the novel, I have a quick demonstration. So, yeah, this is my makeshift candle. The actual one I had burned out, and I'm not really trusted with fire in schools, so we're going to go with this. Anyways, yes, this is, I guess, my candle, and this glow appears. So what does the glow remind you of? Warmth, comfort, happiness, a sense of optimism, right? Regardless of whatever emotion it is, it's a sense of goodness. And ultimately with this, you feel like nothing can go wrong, it will last forever. But of course, lights can't last forever. When this feeling of comfort vanishes, you feel alone, and that goodness is gone. While my hand may have been the reason for this light to go out, this simply is not the only way a light can go out this street. As I delve further into this presentation, keep this idea of the light turning on and off in the back of your mind. First, I'm going to talk about a nation where a totalitarian government tells the citizens and its guests what to think and how to think. This country is North Korea. Obviously known for the strong pressuring of other citizens and a lot of recent international news. They have numerous stories of visitors entering the country and not necessarily entering in a great state, like Warmbier from Wyoming, Ohio, or the numerous defectors from over the years, including Lee Moon-book, a North Korean man who left the nation in 1995. According to Min Blog, everyone in North Korea should strictly follow Kim Il-sung's teachings. So I did as I was supposed to and kept a diary. He documented his early life and struggle, and his learning was to obey the leader in the government and despise every other nation, every other government. No one was allowed to think differently. In his own personal journal, he was even unable to complain about the government because of the inspections of said journal. Until 1991, when he officially figured out what was actually going on and later made his escape, any wrongdoings of the government were seemingly normal. But he had the courage and determination to escape, flickering this light of hope back on for him, as he currently plans to publish his journal to better communicate his life in that nation. His story is definitely an inspiring one, but it raises the question of how this relates. Well, like Min Book, protagonist Dr. Pappenheim, especially after the failures of his planning of the music festival and Badenheim, Austria in the past, he's focused in order to make sure that this one goes right. And while his dream drives him to do a spectacular job compared to the years past, he loses sight of the actual reality and what's happening with the sanitation department, aka the Nazis, in 1939, moving into Austria. Unlike Min Blog, however, Dr. Pappenheim will see his dream falter through his naiveness, instead of seeing a dream because of his awareness. In Badenheim, 1939, Aaron Appelfield tells the story of Dr. Pappenheim, a Jewish man charged with the great task of planning the local music festival, all while the sanitation department slowly rises to power within the town. The sanitation department, the pseudonym for the Nazis moving into Austria, affirmed their grasp on control of the town and the Jewish citizens and vacationers. The vacation destination of Badenheim allows for the absent-minded doctor to plan enriching the entertainment value and hope of the city, while the Jewish community unknowingly lived their final days. By providing optimism in a time of hidden trouble, Appelfield entails the irony that exists between the blindness and feeling of escape that happiness can bring, while it's undermined by a greater evil and heartbreaking power. So, the key to this novel was understanding the past and the author, Aaron Appelfield, as his book was a rather satirical take on the vacation community during the Holocaust. Appelfield was a famous Jewish writer, often exploring the humor of naiveness in infamous times such as the Holocaust. He was born in what is now the present-day Ukraine and lived in a region invaded by the Germans, being separated by his father for as many as 20 years and losing his mother early in the Holocaust. He managed to escape the camps and worked for strangers for basic needs. Once the war was over, he was one of the first children to move in the newly established state of Israel, losing his early memories of life, rather being replaced by the physical reminders of his past. From there, he began to write about his experiences and used them as inspiration in this novel. According to Appelfield, he was not a Holocaust writer or a writer of the past, but writes literature as if it were, quote, an enduring present, an attempt to bring time into an ongoing present, end quote. For as saddening as the time that Appelfield lived in, he managed to find humor in his writing, portraying a dark but humorous irony in infamous times, as he wrote his novels in Hebrew, meaning that his works, and thus his diction and syntactical choices, were not necessarily his own, but that of a translator. He sought to connect Jewish values to human values through this irony, such as having Gentile women work in the Jewish homes in the town. This way, readers could feel familiar with the Jewish culture of the novel and see how relatable it was to their way of life. This was done to teach that aspects of the past, like the Holocaust, need to be known and thus not repeated, and to teach that groups should not be ostracized for their beliefs. Now, granted, Dr. Pappenheim is blind to the situation that's actually taking place. With not knowing the situation, he allows for his feeling of escape to settle in. In the long term, it can be damaging, as his novel will portray. It opens with the spring returning and the sun scattering the remnants of the darkness. Pappenheim's sole focus is the festival. He becomes less concerned with the state of the town as the spring comes back in, and itself comes back in as well. He alienates his thoughts and solely thinking about the success of this festival. Later on in the novel, as the sanitation department decrees the movement of all Jews to Poland, he assures himself and his Jewish community that the town are free from the dynamically changing political landscape, as according to the doctor, quote, "We all lived in Poland once, and we're all going back there," end quote. Pappenheim's exile with the other Jews freed them from the persecution and pain of the religious beliefs back in their native lands, but allows for the persecution to secretly enter their lives once again. The dream vacation that is the vacation that is dreamed about is secretly part of the nightmare that will affect millions throughout Europe. The musical escape that Pappenheim brings to his people is truly an escape, but allows for the sorrow and destruction of the people. Ultimately, the doctor is naive as he only wants to bring happiness to his people. Furthermore, Dr. Pappenheim's ideas of peace and prosperity for the Jews moved to Poland highlights how far removed he is from the political landscape he's living in. Pappenheim and his citizens of the town hold an irrational admiration for law and order during this time. For example, the close of the novel, Dr. Pappenheim happily exclaims as they're entering the trains for Poland, "If the coaches are so dirty, it must mean that we have not far to go." The doctor believes his own word and foreshadows his innocent death. He is blind to the rise of this evil power, reflecting how Appelfeld sought for happiness, but knew that the irony that solely caring about happiness could bring, reflecting the past of escaping the concentration camps and having to live on his own during the Holocaust. This lack of realization will cause an end for the doctor and the citizens of this town. Dr. Pappenheim's determination to put on a great festival, blinding to the harsh reality that was taking place, Appelfeld had to use short, rushed details that held devastating consequences to juxtapose the past, such as regarding the great artist Mandelbaum. The short, rather small sentences that were easily glanced over parallel how the Jews were being treated in the situation with the sanitation department. They are so caught up with this festival that they fail to see the darker truth. Dr. Pappenheim was a proud man, but in order to hold his trade, he had to deliver to his fellow citizens. Meanwhile, locals were leaving the town, Jews were entering the town as well, but being quarantined to Badenheim. This reveals how seemingly normal the arrival of this people was to Badenheim and to Pappenheim, and his naiveness to the actual happenings in Badenheim. He feels that he can step his energy in pleasing his guests of honor for the festival, and his determination to please has separated himself and his ideologies from the true nature of Austria during the Holocaust. Ultimately, the light burned out, not because he blew it out, but because the sanitation department, or the gust of the sanitation department came in. Now for my poem, Dreams, by Wisława Szymborska, the poet asserts a paradoxical relationship that exists in dreams between their motivating but escaping power. The speaker's struggle of finding the purpose. The speaker describes the situation of the world as industrializing, which in turn ruins the perfect natural landscape of the world. The speaker also comments on the mystical power of the dreams hold, as they carry a sense of perfection and idealism that truly does not exist. Through contrasting diction and imagery, contemplative syntax, and repetition, the poet claims that dreams have the power to encourage, but are also blinded to reality, as painted in the speaker's reflection on dreams. For the purposes of the presentation, I'll be reading the last two stanzas. And as a bonus, despite our own freedom, the choices of our heart, our tastes, were swept away by amorous yearnings for, and the alarm clock rings. So what can they tell us? The writers of dream books, the scholars of honoric signs and omens, the doctors with couches for analyses. If anything fits, it's accidental. And for that reason only, that in our dreamings, in their shadowings and gleamings, in their multiplings and inconceivable-ings, in their haphazardings and wide scatterings, at times even a clear-cut meaning may slip through. Both Dreams by Wisława Szymborska and Badenheim 1939 by Aaron Appelfeld explore dark irony that exists in dreams, as dreams offer a sense of hope and optimism but are blinding to the sense of reality. They offer a sense of the perfect world, but there are many difficult steps in order to achieve this perfect world. Both the speaker in Dreams and Dr. Pappenheim in Badenheim 1939 have desires to be fulfilled. The speaker wanting the world to return to its natural state before the raging highways and other forms of industrialization took over. This leaves behind the image of a ruined world for the speaker, characterizing her as worried. Likewise, Dr. Pappenheim is insistent in inviting and hosting great musical artists, including Mandelbaum, in order to put on a show greater than his ones in the past. He goes as far as accommodating Mandelbaum as being Emperor Franz Joseph himself. His accommodation and politeness highlight how dedicated he is from his dream and how unwilling he is to let it slip from his hands. Both the speaker and Dr. Pappenheim dream of their perfect world, and while the speaker addresses that they need to take action in order to achieve their dreams, the doctor has taken steps to live with a dark underlying cause. He is unaware that the power that his dream had, as his focus on the festival has disconnected him from reality. He has been so caught up in his dream that nothing will prepare him for his impending doom. The speaker is more self-aware of his dream, as she concludes that the dreams have a clear-cut meaning that may slip through, claiming that the purpose of dreams can be lost when acted upon. When Pappenheim may not have lost the purpose of his dream, he has lost the purpose of society and thus becomes oblivious to his darkened situation. Entering the train toward the implied concentration at the end of the novel, he goes out state on the train, optimistically believing that he is off to a better life, when he is in fact not. Dreams have forced his mind to cease thinking about any possible derailment for his future and the music festival, leaving him to a horrendous fate. As Applefield intended, he is left living the dream in the real world, causing his ironic death. As Applefield intended, the dreams and optimism hold overshadow the dark underlying truth that if we're not careful of the happenings around us, the light and dream will disappear.